Hey everybody, it's Mandy Gibbons here, and I'm here with Michael. And today we're going to be chatting a little bit about Michael's story because I've seen him on LinkedIn. That's how I met him, and just saw some of his posts and how beautiful they are. And we're going to be talking a little bit about resilience for men, but also emotional resilience for men, and also a little bit about parenting and solo parenting with men. So we're just going to go with the flow here. So it's awesome to see you, Michael, and have you on board today.
Thanks, Mandy. Likewise.
And so just to get started I'd really love to hear a little bit about your backstory, if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
Okay. Well, I have what would be called a colourful life as a young man. Travelled the world doing personal security for a lot of rock bands, strength and conditioning coach. So I always worked for myself, but grew up in what you would call a typical hyper-masculine world.
Yes.
Came from a really heteronormative family where dad worked, mum ran the house, and it worked beautifully for them. You know, mum didn't even have a license until later in life when dad had a stroke and
Yes.
couldn't drive because he did everything. So, and married all their lives, raised 3 kids. 2 of them turned out okay. One was a bit sketchy. So yeah, everything growing up was normal. I was what would be described as a confirmed bachelor for a long time, and the only one in the entire family. Coming from a big Italian family, I was always the wayward child that should have been married.
Yes.
At the age of 49, after a brief relationship, I became a dad. Wasn't something I saw in my future, something I wanted.
Yes.
Having worked in the strength and conditioning field all my life, worked with a lot of kids teams, always got along with kids, worked as a swim teacher for about 18 years on and off. So me and kids always had an affinity, I think, because I was the tallest one in the group.
Yes.
But at 49, I thought it had passed me by. And then suddenly I had my daughter. Sadly, at 9 months of age, we separated. And then shortly thereafter, it became just my daughter and I, with the mother playing no further part in Charlie's life.
Yes.
And so since just before the age of 2, it's been just Charlie and I, and that was, she's almost 10 now. So
wow. Yeah.
Big turnaround in footloose, fancy free. You know, you get an offer to go to America to work, and off I'd go, pack the bags, and now this. And honestly, life couldn't be better.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that sounds like it was very much supposed to be, right?
Yeah. You know, it's funny, Mandy. It seems like my whole life before my daughter was in preparation for my daughter. I got, you know, everything out of the way, but also to the space I work in with a lot of dads, I see a lot of dads struggling to get time with their children through whatever circumstances there are. And we hear a lot of the horror stories about, you know, certain aspects where dads would like more time with their kids, and whether it be work pressures or separation that stops them doing that. Because I came from a place of perceived scarcity, and even in the separation before, you know, that year before, I struggled to get the amount of time with my daughter that I wanted. I value it even more now, and it just seems a little bit disrespectful to the men that are struggling so much to see their kids to take it for granted. And you know, I'm always a big one for the guys when I'm saying, mate, if you're not working equally as hard on your marriage as what you are on your career, you don't want to go into that dark place where suddenly your kids, you know, aren't around as much as you can. So you've really got to stay on top of things in your relationship as well to keep it all functioning well.
This is so good. Like, this is leading it in the exact most awesome direction. Thank you so much for that. So I'd really love to find out a little bit more about what you do, because, you know, your posts are very inspirational. They're super supportive of fathers, and, you know, being able to like create really amazing, close, respectful relationships with their kids. And I mean, you probably have seen my comments, oh, this is beautiful, Michael, you know what I mean, like each time your posts come out. So that's what inspired me to reach out to you in the first place. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Oh, thanks, Mandy. I've written a book, just happen to have it here, called Who Knew? From
Awesome.
Bouncing and Barbells to Ballet and Braids. And as I said, I came from a strength and conditioning or a coaching background.
Yeah.
And what a lot of the things that we talk about, good leadership and good business, well, actually, it's identical for parenting. It's about empowering our employees and our children with the same thing. So not micromanaging and all the rest of it. And when I stood back as a man, I wasn't meant to know anything, and I didn't. And it gave me a lot of opportunity to sit back and go, you know what? I hadn't thought of it before, but now when I consider the stuff I'm being told, it just doesn't make sense. So in business, we have what's called lead and lag. So right now we're operating in the lag of what I did before. So I can step in with my daughter now and say, right, let me do it. This is how I'll do it and all the rest of it. And I'm always going to be stuck with that. So it's a matter of slowing down a bit and going, you know what, Bub, you can do this. Do the best you can. And slowly but slowly she does it till now where, I hate to say it, but you know, she pulls me up a lot. Dad, do you really think that's a good idea? Because we become a little bit invested in being right, especially as men, and being capable. And we've all heard the old stereotype that men won't ask for directions and won't ask for help and all the rest of it. Well, I was forced to actually throw all that out the window and go, you know, I've got absolutely no idea what I'm doing here. And so I was bombarded with well-meaning advice. But I could see the disparity in it. It would be 180 degrees different from person to person. You know, oh no, you can't do that. If you go in while she's crying, she's just going to keep crying, and you're always going to have to do it. And the other one would be, no, you can't leave her. And when you stood back and were forced to weigh it up critically, you'll go, right, so you're trying to tell me that 18-month-old child is that manipulative, is a cunning criminal mastermind that is going, right, this is how I'll control him. And the child's looking for connection and reassurance. And once they're sure, then that goes away. And it worked for me. And that's why I say to guys, when I speak to them about their father, I'll give you suggestions, but the suggestions I give to you work for my child. And it's like the secret of life. Whose life are we talking about? So, you know, I'm not going to demean or diminish your goals and, you know, what you place importance in, because whether it be cultural or, you know, just all of the reasons of your why. If you can get down to that why, and suddenly realize why it's important, and then decide whether it's you or it's programming. Well, it's the same with our children, you know. A shy child isn't someone to be fixed. There's somebody to be given ways to benefit from their personality, find ways to capitalize on it. We do the best with what they have. Don't try and change them. And, you know, as I said, come from an Italian background, and my mum's been horrified at some of the stuff. No, you can't. Mum, just relax. She's got it. And that's why I say to dads, please don't be fearful of parenting different to your wife or your partner, because men and women, if we weren't meant to do it differently, there'd be no point in both of us being present in a child's life. There are some things that men naturally do well, and there are some things that women naturally do well, but they both have the same outcome. So, you know, dads tend to want to protect the world from their child. So we're very big at instilling values. You know, you keep your word, you do all this. Mums are very good at protecting their child from the world. So, you know, they coddle them. Combination of two is great, but we know that children with involved and present dads have better literacy, better emotional, better social. You know, they're more likely to take healthy risks, because believe it or not, children are really good at estimating their own capabilities. They're pretty good at it. So if you leave them, they get good at it. If you don't, then they don't know how to assess risks, and they can become anxious, and
Yes.
because that little scare that we get,
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always say, sorry, I've gotten off topic, but I always say to my daughter when she says, "Oh, Dad, you know, I'm a bit nervous," and I say, "Yeah, but this is the exact same feeling before we get on the roller coaster.
Yes.
It's something needs to be paid attention to. It's something important. So
Yes.
it's a good thing, because
Yes.
after the roller coaster, how good is it? And that's what this is. Jump in." And
Yes.
you know, she's fearless.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it worries me. She'll be the first one to jump off the 3-meter diving board, or you know,
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
rock pool, or
Yeah.
but you know, that's what Dad's doing. That's why I say to him, get involved.
That's it. And I think too, like, you know, it's not like, you know, when it comes to taking risks, it's not like you're teaching her to be reckless. You're just, as you said, it's like an assessment of actually how you feel about it, where you, it's like, even for myself, and I've taught this even to my clients. I have a bit of it's like a 40-60 rule. You know, if you feel 60% safe, for some people, they need to feel 80% safe.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, I hear all the time people saying to their kids, "Be careful."
Yeah.
You know, it's useless. It's like being out while it's raining soup with a fork. What does "be careful" mean? So what
Yeah.
I prefer to say to my daughter, I've gone, you know, that's something that's a bit, "Right, but what's the plan?" And
Yes.
then she's, "Well, what do you mean, Dad?" I said, "Well, what's the plan? How are you going to get from down there up to there?"
Yes.
"Oh, I'll do this and I'll do that." And they learn to evaluate their own risk. But the minute you say "be careful," it can be, "Oh, hang on.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
maybe I shouldn't be doing this."
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
careful doesn't describe what steps says. So she's really good at saying, "Dad, I'd like to get up there." "Well, how are you going to do it? What's the plan?" And that's what I always say to Bubba, as long as you've got a plan,
Yes.
we can fix it. And then we can go, "Well, that plan didn't work. Next time we need to do something else." But you know, it's the fault with the plan, not with the goal, I tell her. So the fact that the plan didn't work doesn't mean that getting up to that top branch wasn't a good goal. It
Yeah.
just means you need a better plan.
And not only that too, it shows that you're supportive of it, right?
Yeah.
And especially as kids get older, if they are having struggles or anything like that, they know then that you've got their back, and that if they're able to work out a bit of a plan and they're not sure, they can come to you. You can support them with that.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
why I always say to, but you know, and you know, raising a strong, independent child is bloody tiring. I tell you, sometimes I wish there was an off switch.
Yeah.
But that's I say to I wanted to negotiate with me on nearly everything. So you know, if she asked me something, I say, "Well, but at the moment I'm thinking no, but you tell me why you think it should be yes."
Yes.
And she'll go through it, and I've gone, "Oh, you know, here's the reasons why I have concerns with it.
Yes.
How can we get around that?" And you know, well, I'll do this and I'll do that. And I said, "All right, yeah, that's a good plan." And that's why I said, "Oh, I don't want her to." It's funny, Mandy. At the moment, we're talking about criminalising coercive control as
Yes.
part of domestic violence,
Yes.
and yet so much of our parenting is coercive in its nature.
Yes.
So do this or you get this taken away from you. Behave this way or you're going to your room. You know, if you do that again, you're going to be in the naughty corner. So I'm going to withhold my approval and love.
Yes. Yes.
And that's why I say we're either setting our children up to either minimize it when it starts happening or perpetrate it. And both boys and girls behave coercively.
Yes.
So that's why I say to Charlie, but there's consequences for everything. There's good consequences and bad consequences.
Yeah.
Every choice has a consequence. So you've got to think them through, but it's up to you. And that's why I'd say to it, we don't want our children to fall pressure to peer pressure, because we do it as adults.
Yes.
We want to be liked. We're always worried about feeling awkward. We're uncomfortable in new situations because we're not sure how we're being perceived.
Yes.
And that's why I say to guys, one of the realizations because I was surrounded by mums.
Yes. Yeah.
I've never felt so awkward or out of place, or, you know, I was like a second thumb on
Yes.
someone's hand. I just felt like I was awkward.
Yeah.
And you've just got to go, you know what? That's good. The only way to have a truly invulnerable life is to admit your vulnerability.
Yes.
Not be attached. Not one bit of my self-esteem is contingent or attached to me being right. And
Yes.
that's why I say to my daughter all the time, I say, Bub, the only thing I know for sure is I don't really know anything for sure. There's stuff I
Yes.
believe,
Yeah.
but it could change tomorrow. But, I came up in the fitness industry where the food pyramid was gospel.
Yes.
Years, but and suddenly it's turned upside down. And
I know.
And that's what I say to guys. If you were paid for work, if they said, you're right, I'm going to give you $5,000 a week, but you've got to dress this way, you've got to wear the uniform, you've got to be on call 24 hours a day. You're not allowed to post anything that could bring disrepute onto the company. You're not allowed to say anything that could bring disrepute or change our brand image.
Yes.
For $5,000 a week, would you do it? Yep. What about for 6 months? Yep. And what about if it meant not seeing your children as much and being a bit distant? Oh, yeah. Well, how much would you want? Would $10,000 do it? Well, how much do you want to do it for the rest of your life? Because that's what we're doing.
Yes.
That's exactly what, and you're doing it for free.
Yes.
So, forget about that. Forget about the comparison. And every time you find yourself going, oh, I feel a bit bad about this, and then you got to look, well, why?
Yeah.
Well, he's got this car, and they're going on that holiday, and but why does that make you feel less? Because this poor bloke could be killing himself to do all of that, and he could be miserable inside. So
and that's really common.
Yep.
Yeah. And you especially see that when relationships break up, right? And then guys, especially like I work with a lot of FIFO, my clients, FIFO guys and stuff like that, and they've been working away for like 10, 15, 20 years or something like that. They've just worked so hard for their families, missed a lot of family time in that time, and then they're things have grown distant, right? They haven't grown together and work through the different seasons in their relationships, and it's sort of, things have fallen apart, and they've just gone, what the hell was I doing? When I was out there, I hated it for years, but I did it because I thought, they felt financially obligated to it. They felt like everyone relied on them to provide that for them, and all of that. There was all this stuff, and they felt like that they couldn't step away from it, the golden handcuffs, so to speak.
Yep.
And and then they're kicking themselves later, but they're just going for, all that money. Look at me now. I'm starting all over again. I have nothing. That's what they're saying. They feel like they have nothing, and they've done all that for no reason. Yeah,
Mandy, it's the most common thing that I've heard, and sadly the narrative around men and children and work, it comes from one side, because men, we don't speak nearly as much as what we should.
Yes.
But the most common thing I hear is, gee, I wish I could spend as much time with my kid as you do. And that's why I say, well, wishing's not going to do it. You need to make a plan, but you also need to make sure that your partner's on board with it as well, because women find great agency in it. I know I've recently got a partner. I made a point of staying single when my daughter's mum stepped out of her life, because I couldn't take the risk of somebody coming in and getting attached and vice versa. I didn't think it was fair on them or fair on my daughter. So I said, right, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to stay single. But fortunately, I met the most wonderful woman. But I tell you, the first weekend when we actually stayed together and my daughter stayed with us, suddenly I became a dirty sock. It was like, it was everything. Normally it's dad, they piggyback to bed, dad, come, it's bedtime. We have our 15-minute chat before bed each night. And it's like, Rob, come on, can you piggyback? And I was like, I couldn't believe it. It was like a dagger to the heart, Mandy. And that being marginalized, and suddenly it was, and that's why I say to guys, you've got to be careful that it's discussed and agreed with your partner that if you suddenly go, right, well, I want to leave my job and I want to do this, you can't just bulldoze your way. You've got to be considerate of other people, because one of the most, when I speak to guys, the two biggest factors they struggle with the level of involvement they'd like to have with the kids, number one's always work pressures.
Yes.
But the number two one is nearly always what's called maternal gatekeeping.
Yes. Yeah.
Learning to be trusted with their kids, because the outdated gender expectations put a lot of pressure on women as well.
Yes.
So you often see it with women, oh, don't you want kids? Or, you know, oh, but you've got a great job, but who looks after the kids? And even if they say, oh, my husband's wonderful, oh, but, you know, so a lot of women feel that mum guilt and mum shame because of that level of judgment, because dad's perceived as, you know, a big bumbling man child who, you know, isn't quite do it. And I've seen lists from guys like a page long because their partner's going away for an overnighter. And it's minute by minute by minute. And that's what I say, like, we know the negative outcomes for micromanagement of teams in business. So not giving the autonomy to be able to go on their own. We know the negative outcomes for helicopter parenting, for our child doing everything for it. But for some reason, the helicopter partnering that happens, need to do this, water's got to be this temperature, feed them this many meals and all of the rest of it. And just, kids aren't that hard, Mandy. They're pretty resilient, as long as you don't drop them too often. And, you know, as long as the stuff gets done, and just step back. Mum, you don't have to do everything. And dad, you can do everything apart from birth and breastfeeding. Everything else is open slather.
That's it. And I think too, like I hear this from men, is that they kind of feel like they step away from stepping into that sometimes because they just feel so browbeaten. And in the end, it's like, it's just easier to not play dumb, but just easier to just like, too hard basket, you know what I mean? I'll just let her handle it because it's just too complicated and it causes conflicts between them and stuff like that. And within them, then obviously, you know, that's very hurtful, right? That's hurtful to them, but also there's this, it's nearly like a programming of like being okay with them being complacent then, which they don't want to be, right? They want to play a large part.
And a lot of men do it to keep the peace, but then they're chastised for not being as involved, and they're ridiculed a little bit for their ineptness when they're trying to mimic. It's like me trying to do an Adele impersonation. Oh, that's the worst impersonation, but I might have a great Jimmy Barnes voice, but because I'm trying to be Adele, it's terrible. You know, a dad trying to parent the way that mum would see as her ideal way might be completely different. But what happens in the beginning here in Australia, dads are entitled to 2 weeks minimum pay. So I think it's $746 a week. Now, what happens in that? So mum comes home, goes, right, I want to be there. At work, dad suffers all these microaggressions. Oh, you know, how's your holiday going? And, you know, are you going to take the whole 2 weeks, or, you know, you were there for, and all of these regressive things where, you know, work's more important. And what actually happens is dads are given more opportunities because they're a provider. So work will actually go, well, he's got a family, we'll give him this opportunity to upgrade so he can earn more for the family. But what happens is we come home at the end of the day, mum's been with the bub all day. So she's got what I call time enrolled. So she's gained that level of knowledge and expertise. Bub likes it when I do this. She doesn't like when I do that. Dad gets home, here, let me give you a break. Well, straight away, you've assumed the role of an assistant. So let me help. Well, no, you're not helping, sunshine. You're doing your bit. She's been doing the parenting all day. Now it's your turn to do the parenting. You're not helping her. You're doing your bit. Then what happens is children change that quickly, that after a couple of weeks, what used to work, the way she would settle, you know, whether it be face down or sucking on your finger, whatever it is, suddenly stops working, but mum's picked up on this. So when dad does it, it's like, oh, I can't settle it. What should I do?
Yeah.
Further into the assistant role. And that's why I say the reason organisations, the management levels are the top paid ones is because they've got the knowledge and the expertise. Straight away, mum's in management, you're one of the drones, one of the worker bees, you do as you're told.
Yes.
And it gets done. So then dad says, well, I'm pretty useless here. What I'm going to do is try and work even harder to provide more resources for my child and wife.
Yes.
They get further apart and it starts to diverge.
Yes.
And
yes.
we hear so much about the unpaid, undervalued nature of motherhood. 2 weeks at minimum pay shows a certain level of undervaluing of father's importance
Yes.
in a child's life.
Yes.
And that's where it goes. And that's why I say the biggest problem we have with the equality movement is most of the equality initiatives, apart from the ones about self-determination, where, you know, bank accounts and home loans and the right to vote and all those really important things, most of them were written and drafted and conceived in a time where dads were either considered unable, uninterested, or unsuitable, or all three, for raising children. So they were all about, right, how can mum work outside of the home and still be available to care for the kids? Oh, flexible work, affordable childcare, all of these things.
Yes.
And they emphasised it.
Yeah.
The FIFO workers that you mentioned, the male-dominated industries, which are the largest employers in the country, construction, transport, forestry, mining, manufacturing, are the least family-friendly ones.
Yes.
So,
yes.
but they also pay the most.
Yes.
So if you're a wife or a partner of one of these blokes in it, your career, your degrees, your qualifications, suddenly you go, well, you know, he can't do this. You know, if you're a chippy or a bricklayer, you can't be saying to the boss, right, Monday, Wednesday and Friday, I need to do the school run. Can I come in at 9:30 and leave at 2:30?
Yes.
Not going to happen. So the wife ends up doing it and it just drags all of that equality back. And we don't prioritize men's careers. This is the big misnomer. We do not, we keep hearing about this patriarchal system. We go, men get all the, they don't. As much as there's a motherhood penalty, there's what I call the fatherhood forfeit. And what we forfeit, you can't make up. That time with the kids, that quality, attachment, all of those things are gone. And then at the end of it, should you separate, rightfully, there's a 60-40 split or whatever to make up, because the only reason you were able to earn that income is because of mum's input at home. So you're a team, so they go, right, well, fair's fair. You earned the money off of mum's input as well. So it's not like you were brilliant at your job. You were brilliant at your job because mum enabled you to do that job.
Yes.
So it's an equitable outcome to an unequal situation.
Yes.
So your super goes, rightfully, again.
Yes. Yes.
So when I hear people saying, oh, you know, women retire with lower super, well, they do, and superannuation should be paid as part of maternity leave because it's paid on holiday leave, sick pay, all of the rest of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's the truly only gendered penalty that applies just to women. So if you want to have a kid, help the nation, all the rest of it, your super goes. But then at the end of it, should you split, dad rightfully has to give part of his super over to her. So when they say that, oh, it's a woman's problem, there's no such thing as a woman's or a men's problem. Inequality.
Yes.
Men die, 7 out of every 9 suicides are men.
Yes.
And yet we're told, oh, you know, patriarchy. But every one of those men have a mother. And every time there's domestic violence, every one of those women have a father. So, you know, there's flowing, whether it's direct or indirect, but we need to come together. This equality movement has become like a football match with sides to be barracked for and against. So the blokes who complain about losing part of their super when they separate, stop complaining and start campaigning for women to be paid super as part of their maternity leave. And then you won't have to sook about doing the right thing and giving part of your super because they're being unfairly discriminated against by not getting it.
Yes.
Dads, mums, you need to start campaigning, especially the quality thing, about dads having more access to
Yes.
parental leave, because then your career and your time out of the workforce won't be doing it. But at the moment, we're all fighting for ourselves.
Yes.
And it's getting us nowhere.
It's true. And, you know, it's, you know, the amount of women that I know who have said over the years they would have loved it if they're, you know, they burst into tears when their partners go back to work, when he goes back to work, because they're just so overwhelmed. They would love him to be home more to help.
Yeah, and that's why I say dads are trying their best. They're genuinely coming from a good place, and I think that's why a lot of them are so shattered when it goes wrong, because they feel that they've done their best. And that's why I say to guys, you've got to communicate this stuff clearly. Like, don't, the stuff that you think goes without saying actually needs to be said.
Yes, yeah, that's it. And I think too, like, I see this, you know, in the guys that I coach, and I've experienced this myself even, you know, it's like when you know, when you want to communicate, especially if a guy's exhausted, right? And, you know, and this is in FIFO, or, you know, it doesn't matter what type of industry work that they're doing, but in FIFO, you know, like the guys come home, they're exhausted, they need like a, you know, a day or two to just like wind down from being, it's a culture shock too, right? Being out there and then coming back in. And so they need to wind down. And if there's like a whole heap of stuff that their partner, you know, their wife says, you know, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about it, and he's just like going, oh, I just need a break. You know what I mean? And guys are like that after work as well. You know what I mean? They're exhausted, and it's like, well, you know, how do you work out how to communicate? So, because what happens is the more that this person says, I don't want to talk about it, the more this person says, well, I'm not going to fucking talk about it. I won't even go there. You know what I mean? And then they just drift away and nothing gets said. And then there's resentment and there's all this other stuff that builds up and nothing gets sorted, right?
Yeah, that resentment and criticism is the two biggest things. And resentment only builds up when you bottle up your communication. You know, I always say that lately it seems that values have become transactional.
Yes.
I'm going to treat you well if you treat me well. You know, respect has got to be earned, and some of these ridiculous things, disrespect has to be earned. But I always say there's nothing that I do that I wouldn't do regardless of the situation or circumstance. So I clearly articulate, or I clearly understand my values. I understand why things upset me, and I'm not okay with disrespect, but it doesn't mean that I'll disrespect somebody back. But I will pull them up and just, you know, I'll say to them, you know, I'm not sure if you realize it, but you're sort of coming across a little bit terse, and, you know, I'm not okay with that. So, you know, hopefully, you know, no harm, no foul, and we can move forward. But it's that real empathy, and then looking below, because a lot of the times you find what you're arguing about isn't actually the problem. The thing about an argument or a disagreement, it drags you out of your head and forces you to focus right there in the minute. It drags you into the present, the immediacy. But the thing that's been annoying you, upsetting you, that's kicking around in your subconscious, that's giving you that stress, suddenly that's forgotten. So now I can focus on this. So it's what I call an aggression. What's the word? Procrastination, aggressive procrastination. So this is what I can focus on instead of doing what needs to be done and doing the work that needs to be done. And that's why I say I've got this one where, you know, I realize I'm often the target of slights and stereotypes because of outdated gender expectations. I acknowledge it 100% of the time that, you know, it's funny, in my work, I get trolled as much by women as what I do men. You know, oh, you'll never understand what it's like. You didn't carry girl needs a mum, women are just naturally, so all of these outdated stereotypes. I admit I'm the target of it day in, day out. But what I'll never accept is that I'm the victim of it.
Yes.
So I'm not going to let it, you know what?
Yeah.
That's to do with you. And that's why I always try and tell my daughter, Bubby, if somebody's angry or upset with you, you need to make sure that they're okay, because there could be something going on. And if you don't feel that you've done anything wrong, then the way they're behaving, because we all make mistakes. None of my self-esteem is tied up in being right. And it makes it easy to admit when somebody says, well, you did this wrong. And it's, oh, you know what? Now that you mention it, I can see why you would feel like that. And I'm sorry. And that's why I'd say to her all the time, never mess up an apology with an excuse, because it's not an apology. That's manipulation. So I'm sorry, but no, well, then you're not sorry. Don't justify it. So you're either sorry or you're not. And if you see why you did it, you don't need to explain it to them. You need to understand it yourself. So I did snap, but I was tired. Well, don't put the tired in. Just think to yourself, now I understand why I did the wrong thing, why I snapped. But they don't need to hear that, because you're not trying to make an excuse. So it's just a matter of listen aggressively when somebody's telling you what's wrong, but make sure you close it all off, bundle it up at the end of it. So, you don't like it when I do this. I understand why you don't like it. I realize it now. I didn't at that time, but fully can see where you're coming from. Glad we got that out of the way. Can we move on and do it in a genuine way? If you don't understand, just saying, because you've got to internalize this stuff, and it's an opportunity for growth. And that's why I say with the parenting, some of the greatest moments between my daughter and I have been mistakes. And I've gone, oh, Bub, now I didn't even realize, I'm sorry. It's not going to happen again. And it notches the relationship up a level. It builds that closeness,
and trust and honesty is so huge, right? Because how many arguments are really just beating around the bush.
And it's funny, did you ever see Space Odyssey 2001?
I probably did, but I can't remember it. I'm familiar with the name.
They had artificial intelligence running the spaceship, and his name was Hal. And at the end of it, he wants to lock the astronauts out to save the ship. And they're trying to override it. Now, we all have an inherent distrust of artificial intelligence. The robot's going to take over, and they're going to, and because we want to be in control. And what I've come to realize is our thoughts are like this artificial intelligence. And it's like, you know what? I'm hearing this, but I don't have to listen to it. I do feel silly, but why do I have to listen to it? Or I can listen to it and step back. So our thoughts are like cars going down a freeway. And you either want to be driving it, or if most of us are in the passenger seat. I don't feel good enough. I'm worried about my appearance. I'm not this. Hey, why are you listening? Stop the car. I'm getting out. I'm going to wait till a thought comes along that I want to be part of, and then do it. So think about your thinking is what I tell guys. So if you feel like I'm unsure about what to do with the baby, why are you unsure? Oh, because I don't know. But what is it you can't figure out? That's why I say you're an elite level athlete. I've seen you pick up skills like you would not believe. You're a computer programmer. How did you learn that? I studied. Well, why would this be any different? This ridiculous maternal instinct, only a mother's love, mother knows best, all this stuff that makes blokes feel like, there's a secret sauce, they're just naturally good at it. It does a great disservice to women because of the hard work that it is. But it also puts a lot of pressure on it. And that's what stops a lot of women reaching out for help until it's at crisis point, because they feel like, I should just know this. After all, I'm a woman. So not only are they failing as a mother, but they're somehow flawed as a woman. And dads also, I'm unsure. Mate, just sit with that uncomfortable feeling and try and figure out, if I do this, she loves it. She laughs. She looks at me. That's all you got to do. That didn't work. That
Yeah.
didn't work. This does. Look at
Yeah.
me go. Now I've gone from a white belt to a blue belt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, guess
Yeah.
what? She does. Oh, I notice she goes to sleep at 2 o'clock. All of a sudden, sooner or later, you're going to be a black belt parent,
Yes.
just like a mum, because it's experiential learning. The
Yes.
books and all the rest of it, even though I've written one, it's all about finding your own way, Mandy, because every kid is different.
Yes, that's it. And how many parents do you hear say this, right? When they've got, well, the last kid was like this one's just a whole other ball of, you know what I mean? They're like, whoa, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I say this whole nature nurture. It's not an either or, but you can have 3 kids. You can even have identical twins with completely different personalities. So it's not the parenting that's changing the kid. And one parenting approach won't work with all kids, although there's only 4 parenting styles, and that's authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, and negligent. And the authoritative one is the best.
Yeah.
Now, there's more variance between parents than what there is between genders. So that's what we're saying. A lot of it's got to do with cultural, but the authoritative one, so just guidelines, expectations, certain rules, and you're just the guardrails that stop them running off the cliff. They're the ones that work the best. So man, woman, or child. And that's why I say the risk taking and all of the rest of it that have beneficial output. It's not the gender of the person who providing the stimulus that is determinant of the outcome.
Yes.
A mum who encourages a child to take risks will be exactly the same outcome as a dad who does it. But we've got this ridiculous women are nurturers, dad a hunter gatherer, or, oh, that's a feminine trait. And that's what I get told so many times. Oh, you must have such a feminine side to you, like, good on you, this feminine energy.
Yeah.
We even see it in leadership now.
Yeah.
Oh, women are great leaders because they're more empathetic. No, pardon me. Great leaders are great leaders because they're empathetic. Regardless, an empathetic man will be a great leader, and an empathetic woman will be a great leader.
Yes. Yeah.
So stop with this, assigning. That's why I say these male stereotypes and stigmas and this toxic masculinity rubbish. It's not toxic masculinity. If your behavior's governed or influenced or even, driven by what is popular, expected, or in any other way generalized, rather than what's needed for your family, authentic and genuine, you don't have a problem with your masculinity. You've got a problem with your character. Put it on the individual. It's not because you're a bloke, you're a rat bag. It's because you're a rat bag, you're a rat bag.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And it's funny because I see it in, like, I've always had very close friendships with men my whole life, and I've hung around blokes my whole life, and so there's all these really cool different qualities about men that I think we need to just, like, really embrace and understand that it's not just, all men are the same, because they're not. And, women can be just, can really go hard with their masculine energy anyway, right? And, look how many guys say, well, I'm fucking terrified of her. You know what I mean? Like, and they could be a very masculine bloke.
Yeah,
you can't just pitch everyone in the one basket.
It's funny, Mandy, when I do talks, there was one talk I did, there was about 130 guys in the room.
Yeah.
And at one stage, I think there was about 128 in tears. And that's why I said and it moves me. And that's why I said, just stop, guys, just have a look around.
Yeah.
And you want to do this? This is because there are so many men that are scared to speak up, speak out, or be their true selves. And I think that's why a lot of men live in such pain, why that 7 out of every 9 suicides are men. And all of things, because if we speak up, he's whinging, it's man flu. Like, this man flu drives me mad. We have blokes that don't go to doctors and are losing their lives through cancers and, poor health outcomes, and drinking and smoking themselves to death and having that cavalier, and then when somebody says they're, not feeling, it's man flu. You're kidding. Like, we just got to stop and do away with that stuff. And once these men are in a safe space, and once they feel like they can do it, the outpouring of emotion is just incredible.
It
And
is. I agree.
it's amazing. And that's why I say to guys, we're all worried. Guys are very good at following rules.
Yes.
You know, we set this is what you do, this is how you behave, and this is what. But who set those rules?
Yes.
And that's why I say we're all so busy trying to belong to a bunch of blokes who are trying to belong to a bunch of blokes who are trying to belong to a bunch of blokes.
Yes.
That no one's sure who they are.
Yes.
And the minute we get in that room and I tell them a story and I end up in tears and I look around and they're all in tears.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've even said to them, oh, you know, look, aren't we a bunch of pansies now? You know, imagine, you know, I want you to go home and tell your wife and tell your partners and tell your mates you were at this place and you cried and you don't know why you cried.
Yes.
And, you know, then you've got to look why, you know.
Yes.
I spent the first 50 years of my life, well, 49 years of my life, not crying.
Yes.
You know, I've been through some horrible things. And I said, don't show any weakness.
Yes.
Since my daughter's been here, I cry Qantas ads, tissue paper ad. Like I'm the biggest. She does ballet on. You know, the mums tease me. Oh, here he goes again. And that's why I say to guys, no, I can't switch it off. I've become emotionally incontinent, and it's who I am. And you know, tease me all you want. It doesn't bother me. You know, it's like teasing me because I've got dark hair. It's who I am. You need to discover who you are and embrace it and go, well, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yes, I so get that. And I mean, throughout my life, you know, probably because I've been close friends with guys, and I hung out with them so much, you know, there would always be the conversations, very macho conversations around, you know, whatever they were talking about, girls or whatever. And then, you know, most of them would leave and then there'd just be me and another bloke would just be kicking back. And the stuff that he would tell me, you know, like if it was something that was, you know, that really tough stuff he was going through, like emotionally, I'd say, did the other crew know about this, the other guys? And he'd go, oh, no, there's no way I would tell them. But he would tell me, right, you know, and so I would definitely have his back. And I mean, I've seen guys cry so many times, it's not funny, but they would never cry around their mates.
They don't even cry around their partners, Mandy, because
no, it's true.
They want to be the strong one. They want to be the rock. And that's why I say to them, guys, you're putting yourselves into graves here. This is killing you. Like, just stop. You don't have to be that way. Just, you know, put your hand up and speak up.
Yes, it's true. I like to use the term, and, you know, people hear me say it often. You know, he doesn't want to be the white knight that falls off the horse, right? Because he feels like, and maybe they are, you know, that the people around him, his wife, family, or those around him, are holding him up there, right? He feels like he has to be up there and that he doesn't want to come down off that pedestal because he feels like he'll be letting everyone else down, and he can't do that because he's the one who has to hold everything together for everybody else.
Yep, it's sad, man. We live a life of quiet despair, a lot of guys. And that's what I say. I was lucky, Mandy, when my ex-wife and I separated. 2 weeks later, I had a small car accident after doing the bloke thing. Big 2 or 3 day bender, had a small car accident, taken to hospital just to scan my neck to make sure it was okay. They came out and said, right, we want to put you back through from the waist up. I said, okay, fine. Put me through from the waist up. It's now about 4 o'clock in the morning. I thought, oh, you know what, I'm done. I got up, caught a taxi home. And next minute I've got the ambulance at my door trying to take me back to hospital. Turned out I had some lumps and bumps and bilateral pulmonary embolisms, not from the accident, but I'd nearly worked myself to death, you know, working those 80 hours a week and traveling with football teams and all the rest of it. And suddenly when the doctor said, well, you know, the oncologist has got to come through, you're going to be here for a while. And it was like, you're kidding me. Marriage has just ended. Haven't seen my daughter for 2 weeks. And now this. Suddenly my house had become, my life was like a house that was on fire. Flames leaping through the roof, smoke billowing out the windows. And the only thing I could think of that I would rush back into that house for was, how was this going to affect my daughter? And it's like time stood still. And it was like, how will she grow up without me? At that stage, she was 9 months old. Will she even remember me?
Yes.
You know, what impact will this have? And ever since then,
Yeah.
I've just lived, you know, it doesn't matter. And the treatment was fairly harsh going through it, but it was just, you know, if I get through this, you know, I made promises, this is what I'm going to do, that doesn't matter. And I just want to maximize my time. And
Yeah.
as I said, you know, I'm 60 next year and my daughter will be 10.
Yeah.
And there's only limited time. I want to be well enough, hopefully, if she decides to have grandkids, to get a second
Yeah.
go around at it and torment them
Yeah.
with rubber spiders and all the rest of it like I do her. But that's why I say to guys, mate, I looked into that black abyss, you know,
Yeah.
and not only was it, you know, life without my daughter, but looking at it through her eyes,
Yeah.
her life without me.
Yes.
And after that, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't need to work those 80 hours. I didn't need the car. The mortgage can go get stuffed.
Stuffed it.
Yep. You know what? I managed to work 3 days a week through the treatment because it knocked me around that much.
Yes.
Once I was through the treatment, I thought, you know what? I'm going to keep this 3 days a week.
Yeah.
That constraints caused me to be innovative in my business. Suddenly I found a way to get all of my clients, strength and conditioning clients, into those 3 days.
Yes.
So that I was home every night to put my daughter to bed and have dinner with her.
Yeah.
There were only 2 mornings a week where I wasn't with her.
Yeah.
But she was coming to work with me on Saturday where I worked. And I just thought, you know what? And I turned down a lot of offers. You know, I was an AFL strength and conditioning coach. I had another offer, but it would mean traveling with the team and great money. But it would take me away from my daughter a lot. And that's why I thought, because I was crystal clear on my values and I looked into that abyss, and I thought, you know, Craig Harper, who I love his work, he's got a great one that he says, you know, if the opportunity in front of you doesn't fit within your value system, it's not really an opportunity, it's a test of character.
Yes.
And once you're crystal clear on your values,
it
makes it so easy to turn down stuff that doesn't. So the blokes, hey, come on, we're all going to the pub. No, thanks, mate. Oh, why not? Oh, I'm in the middle of a game of snakes and ladders. No, seriously, why not? No, mate, I'm having a good time here. I'm not going to do it. I promise we're going for a bike ride. Oh, but you know, we're all going to the gym. No, mate, I'm going to the trampolines with my daughter.
Yes.
You're kidding? Yeah, mate. No, but you know, bring your kids to the trampoline if you want. And that's why I said that crystal clear values.
It's true.
Makes life easy. They don't make life hard, and that's why I say, you know, you don't have to respond or appear or behave in a certain way. It's just organic.
Yes. My goodness. I can't believe it on that, because what we're talking about now is actually what I do as part of my coaching with men. So, you know, it is very much about emotional resilience and inner resilience. It's operating from your core values, right? Because once you step into that, once you are very sure of that and you know where you're operating from, it's very easy to set boundaries for yourself. It might be a bit challenging at first once you sort of, you know, you're moving through the process of learning how to do that if you haven't necessarily been doing that before. And then, because if you're able to set boundaries, then you can make decisions a lot easier too when you know what your core values are. You know, it's easy to, like you said, to say a yes or a no. You're way more sure of yourself. You're able to have your own back. You're not worried about what other people are going to say if you say no, because you know where you're headed, right? And you're dead set sure of that and yourself within here.
Yeah, and that's why I say, Mandy, you also become a lot less judgmental.
Yes.
Because suddenly, I'd say my self-esteem isn't contingent on me being right.
Yes.
It's about me. So if people have different perspectives, values, whatever like that, that's great. And I really want to know about that, because I try and tell my daughter, if somebody says something that you don't agree with, rather than trying to point out or find why they're wrong, try and find out why they think they're right.
Yes.
Try and understand why, because if you were that person who'd grown up with their influences and experienced what they'd experienced, then you'd pretty much be making those decisions and have those outlooks yourself. And now we've just become we've got the woke left and the alt-right and everyone that's just attacking everyone. And bullying used to be a bad thing, but now suddenly bullying's okay if you're bullying the right people. That's why I say to people, if somebody, and often they do, because, you know, I've got no filter, I'll blurt something out and they say, oh, you know, that's offensive. And I say, oh, I'm sorry, I did not mean to offend you in any way. And, you know, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't realize it would be offensive to you, or I wouldn't have said it. So, you know, accept my apology. But nowadays, it seems like the level of outrage is replacing the level of certainty. Like there's moral complexity, and they want to replace it with moral certainty. This is good, this is bad. If you think this, you're bad. And, you know, it's just, you know, if we disagree on something, let's find something we do agree on. It's okay. We don't all have to agree. I don't need you to agree with me. You shouldn't need me to agree with you for me to think you're a wonderful person. It's just, it's this one topic. I don't agree, but there's no judgment placed on you for doing it. So it's just, and that's what I want to say to my daughter. I don't want to be subject to be influenced by peer pressure, because we know developmentally that once she gets to about the age of now where she's 9, that her peer group will have more of an influence on her than what I will. But up until about the age of 6 or 7, that's where you've got your chance as a parent, and not by what you say, but by your example. And that's why I say to guys, now she's out on her own, and the best that I can hope to be is that little voice in the back of her ear when someone's saying, come on, let's all get in the car because, you know, he's only had a couple of drinks. I just hope on that little voice is going, oh, you know what? Something doesn't seem right. And you know what? You guys, if you want to do it, that's fine. But me personally, no, you know, if you want to take drugs, you know, I'm not going to try and convince you otherwise. But I'm out. I want to be secure enough. And she won't learn that from me trying to inflict or instill my values and my ideals on her and not giving her a chance to explore her own. And it's just that, you know, we can either manipulate or coerce our children, or we can inspire them by our examples, and we inspire them by giving them that trust in yourself that we love it as adults, whether it be at work or anything like that, that self-autonomy, that, wow, look what I just did. You know, first effort, you know, this making a cake, it's a bit rough, but I did it. If we step in early with our kids, the only thing they learn is, well, Dad can do it better than me. You know, and it's just, and, you know, I've got this one when I do my talks, and that's why I say parenting at its best is questionable, especially mine. And everyone looks and say, no, you question. It's the same as coaching. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do. I'm going to ask you what you think. So Charlie would come up, oh, Dad, look at this. What do you think? I've gone, Bub, what do you think? Oh, I think it's great. Why do you think it's great? Well, was it hard? No, not really. Oh, if it was easy, would you do anything different next time? Oh, I'd like to do this better. Well, that's great, Bub. I'm glad you like it. Me, you know, I think everything you do is wonderful, but you're the one that matters. So, you know, she'll come to me, Dad, how do I spell this? How do you think? Oh, and she gets it eventually. No, I don't think that's right. I don't want her to go to other people for answers or anything like that. I want her to struggle and learn to think for herself. And it's the same with us guys. We've got to stop going to guys. And like you said earlier, these guys that wouldn't say anything to their mates because they're scared, you know what? If I'm seen as different to what they think I am, you know, I might get expelled from the group. Because back in the old days, you get driven out of the tribe, you were gone. You know, our dependent, and we all have that inherent need for connection. We're social animals. We want to belong. And the social media and the algorithms and that, we find a group that echoes back at us what we're doing, and it just builds in that certainty that we don't ever examine it, because it's, you know what? I've got a square piece and there's a square hole. Yep, keeps fitting. Well, square pieces are the things that they're it. Suddenly you'll come up against a circle, and that cognitive dissonance that happens. Oh, hang on. Well, that's not going to work. Gee, you know what? bugger that, I'm going to go and look for another square hole again. And
Yes.
we don't grow. We don't find ourselves.
No, that's true. This is so good. And so in your book, do you cover a lot of this in your book, or?
Yeah, the book, it's a lot of the outdated gender expectations that
Yes.
suddenly became glaringly obvious.
Yes.
And it swung around, Mandy. It was my daughter's four-year-old ballet concert, and I was always the only dad there. And there were a lot of things that suddenly started to realize. I get a lot of, I love a compliment as much as the next guy, probably even more. But I used to get, oh, what a wonderful dad. It's so good to see that.
Yeah.
How do you manage? And, and then it started to dawn on me. It's like, you know what, when I started getting Father of the Year type praise for managing a French braid,
Yes.
I wasn't curing cancer. And it was just, what?
Yes.
It's not that I'm good. It's just that the bar is set so low. So it would be the same as me saying to a woman, wow, you can work a computer. Wow, you must be really intelligent.
Wow, you can mow the lawn.
Yeah, oh, you can drive a manual. It's just,
yes. Yeah.
The compliments were coming from a well-meaning place.
Yeah.
But, it's the same as me saying to somebody, oh, you speak good English for an immigrant, and, they've been here for 3 generations or whatever. They were borderline patronizing in the end.
Yes.
And then it would be like, oh, poor girl, poor little girl, every girl needs a mother. And I like, why? Oh, well, it's just, I'd say, but why? So what about same-sex parents?
Yeah.
Oh, well, and that's what I'd say. See, you haven't really considered it, because one of the most common ones I get is, well, you'll never understand what it's like to be a mother, because we carry them for 9 months, and that's what I'd say. You're 100% right. I could never, ever understand that. And I'm in awe of it, and it's wonderful. But I don't understand the great clarity and confidence you can speak to the lesser value of my love, commitment, and devotion to my daughter compared to yours.
Yes.
And, oh, no, it's just, we have that special bond.
Yeah.
I've gone, but I have a special bond with my daughter too. And you're not only having a go at me or dads, grandparents, step parents, foster parents, adoptive,
I was going to say foster and adoptive parent,
same sex who have achieved through surrogacy suddenly. But not only that, but also the children of those parents. And it's just, it's rubbish. It is just rubbish. But that's what's held women back.
Yes.
And stop men being them true selves, because we doubt ourselves, and women become locked into that. Well, career is good, but really you should be looking after your kids, because how do you cope? And so when people say to me, how do you cope? I say, well, like any single parent, only barely sometimes. I say, no, as a man. I say, well, what's that got to do with it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be hard for you raising a daughter.
Yeah.
Or is it hard for a mother, single mum, raising a son? Oh no, but and that's right on. So at Charlie's 4-year-old ballet concert, they actually sent out all of the stuff and said, there's a special Mummy and Me ticket offer. Mums are expected to be available for the full 3-hour dress rehearsal. Mums need to ensure the ballet bun is done in accordance. Mums need to ensure this. And then right at the bottom, it's got, and of course, there are no males allowed in the backstage area. And the 3-year-old ballet concert wasn't a problem. And here we are at the 4-year-old one. And I put my hand up at the meeting and said, well, you've got here no males allowed. Well, I have to be. And they said, well, why is that? And I said, well, I'm Charlie's parent.
Yeah.
And they said, well, if you bring her to the back door, we can look after her. I said, well, that would be fine if you're going to look after everyone else.
Yeah.
But, Charlie can't be the only child backstage without a parent.
Yes.
And then the next one, does she have an auntie or a nana? She's got both of those.
Yes.
But I'm her parent.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you need to understand the other girls will be uncomfortable with a male backstage.
Yes.
I said, well, what about the 2 boys in the class? Are they uncomfortable with the women backstage?
Yes.
No, that's different. Why? Oh, it's a child protection issue. I've got my working with children certificate, swim teacher for 18 years.
Yes.
Program coordinator for YMCA. So I'm trusted with other people's children, and you're
Yeah.
telling me I can't be trusted with mine.
Yeah.
I will have to work it out. All the mums backed me up, and they threatened to walk out. And then luckily one of the mums came to me and said, oh, Susie O'Brien is a friend of mine. I think she'd jump all over this.
Yeah.
Within 2 days, it was in every news, all the newspapers, all the
Wow.
national news. We even
Yeah.
made it onto BBC in London.
Yeah.
Fair to say, when I walked back into that ballet school, I was a little bit sort of,
I've got goosebumps like that.
yeah, and it's up on my website, and it's called Dad's Back in Swing, and that's where this whole gender and equality advocacy came from, because suddenly I realized men hit barriers every day from their employers, from their wives who may feel marginalized, from marketing and media portrayals where the bumbling dad like daddy daycare and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop there. That's what affects women's equality, because until men are enabled, encouraged, and finally expected to be held equally responsible for raising the next generation, women's equality just can't happen, because it doesn't matter what opportunity or what initiative is in place. Mum can't grab it with both hands if one hand's still full of that caring stuff. And, you know, men, it's not that hard. And that's why I'd say, you know, oh, but men don't know how to. If we want to raise more caring and empathetic and emotionally intelligent men, we know through the process of neuroplasticity that we can actually rewire their brains by giving them that opportunity.
Yes.
But that part of the brain dies off. And once we become, you got to compete, you got to earn more, you got to work harder, we've got to be driven, you got to be single focused.
Yes.
That's how we rewire the brain, that myelination of the brain things. It all goes. And most of the time we're operating in that lower part of the brain, in that fight, flight, you know. And that's why I say to guys, just stop, just breathe, just relax. You can do this. It's not hard.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what the book's about.
Yes. Oh, could you just hold that up on the screen just for a little bit longer? That's awesome. And what I'll do is I'll put a link to that as well.
Where is it?
That's great. That's so good. I love that. Oh, this has been good. I love this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on today. And so if people want to like reach out to you, how do they like go about that? Like I'll put your LinkedIn and your website details on there, but is there a preferred way that you would love people to contact you? Or
through the website's good, Mandy. So michaelray.com.au. Through LinkedIn is always good. I'm also the news anchor now on an online broadcast and news show called TheInformer, so you can see some of my journalist work on there. But all around the place.
Oh, that's cool. And is there sort of something that you would really love to like that we haven't discussed that you really feel like men and women too, but you know, men specifically, whether that be about parenting or anything like that, that you would just love them to know?
Mandy, the main thing is when I get told, oh, you know, it's great to see you, you know, embracing all of this stuff. I can guarantee without any doubt in the world, the one thing I'm certain of, if I hadn't have had that accident, if my partner and I were still together, my daughter's mother and I were still together, I would have walked into the stereotypical breadwinner, whatever role. So without thinking. So sometimes we just need to stop, and you'll know this from your coaching, actually strip back and identify what it is that you want to do. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It's at this time. What is the smallest step in the right direction towards what I want I can take? So it's all very good to go, well, I want to spend a lot of time with my kids. Well, working yourself up the ladder is, you know, so that you earn more, so that you can eventually take time off. Well, your goal and your timeline don't match up, because once your kid gets to that 16-year-old, you know, Charlie's 9, I'm already getting as many eye rolls as hugs, you know, suddenly my jokes aren't that funny. So, you know, it's just a constant reevaluation of where you are in life, men and women. But women need to step back a bit as well and not let the pressure get to them. And they need to trust their dads, and dads you need to do it as well and go, you know what? I don't care if so-and-so works 80 hours, because
Yeah.
if you've managed to become indispensable, important and vital to your organization, and
Yes.
somehow optional in your family,
Yes.
both your organization and your family have problems. Because I know through my strength and conditioning and AFL level coaching, if you don't have a bench full of good players able to sub on and sub off,
Yes.
that team's in trouble.
Yes.
Same with your organisation. If you can't provide paternity leave
Yeah.
for blokes to come and go and for wives to come and go and all the rest of it, you're in trouble. And that family, if you've somehow forced your children to minimise the support they need because it's not there, your children are going to suffer as well. So,
yes.
you know, parenting versus career, the two need to work together. One's got to enable the other. Otherwise, burnout, family divorce, you know, you think that the two major causes of stress for dads is that work and family conflict. I feel bad. We get this mum guilt. Dads feel it as well. We're missing out on stuff. And, you know, we've got to put our hand up and go, you know what? I'm not happy to work 80 hours a week. And if you want to get someone else to do it, I'm sorry, but I can't be part of it.
Yes.
No more sneaking off, leaving your jacket on the back of the chair, rushing out to do the school run, getting back and hoping no one noticed. And I do another talk, and that's why I say to guys, leave loud and leave proud. You know, family commitments trump work. You're at work to support your family, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's it. And it's good too for your kids to see that, right? Because then as they're growing up, they see that beautiful connection and involvement that the parents have with them. And then they know that that's possible for them too, right? Otherwise, they're walking into a whole new area of like, I don't know how to even explore this or have this, you know, if they want that for their own lives.
Yeah, the other one too that I think is really important, Mandy, is I had an epiphany or one of those aha moments one day when Charlie said to me, Dad, you know, I wish I wasn't scared of anything and could do everything as good as you.
Yes.
And that's why I said, oh, Bub, you know, you're seeing the end result here. And as dads, it's very easy to appear superhero type and able to do everything. So we've got to share our failures and our fears and everything like that, because we run the risk of our children feeling inferior, feeling as failures. And that's why I said, oh, Bub. And now she loves hearing about the mistakes and the silly things I've done during life. And, you know, and that's why I say, Bub, I've done worse than that. Don't worry about that. You know, that's what we need to do. We don't need that veneer of invincibility, because it serves no one any good.
That's it. And it offers you a lot more self-acceptance as well, when and self-compassion at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for making time to come on.
No problems, Andy. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for jumping in and listening today. And definitely reach out to Michael, you know, if you want to find out a little bit more about him. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of your posts and more of what you're doing as well. That's super, super cool.
Thanks, Mandy.
Okay, take care.
You too.
Thank you so much. Big hugs. Bye-bye.
Hey, beautiful man. If you're going through stress, need insight, direction to lighten the load, brother, and support during these challenging times, reach out to me. It's no secret that there are so many men suffering at the moment, amazing men, and they're so keen to get help, but don't know what that looks like. So I've created a 6-week one-to-one resilience coaching package for men with one-to-one coaching calls and support via Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp in between calls to help put yourself back in the driver's seat of life. And there's a strong level of trust that goes hand in hand with walking by someone's side during their challenges and their celebrations too. And that's what I'm here for, brother. So message me and let's find your path to true resilience.